Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now then, we still have a coolant leak on the BMW 130i with the N52 engine, and I'm going to try and really fix that today. So I don't know how many of you guys watched the video probably a month or two ago now, where I located one of the coolant pipes, and it seemed that, you know, we was having a coolant leak from this pipe, and I went ahead and replaced one of the Jubilee clips, and that seemed to work initially, and then I checked about a week later and we still seem to have a coolant leak. So I'm kind of taking a drastic measure. No, I'm not taking the engine out. No, I'm not, you know, replacing the head gasket or anything like that. But I am going to be completely replacing that pipe that I believe we have the coolant leak from. So if we take a look here, this is the pipe that I believe we are getting the coolant leaking from. I don't know whereabouts on the pipe, but this is just the highest point that I can see the coolant dripping down from. Now we have a few different components to this pipe. Now this is a used second-hand pipe, believe it or not. Now like I said, we do have a few different components. So we have this rubber hose here, which I actually am going to be replacing. I have a new rubber hose to go with it. We have this gasket here, which should just pull off. This is where it meets on with the engine block. We have a new one of these. Then we also have this O-ring on the end here. We have a new one of these. So essentially we're going to be building up a new pipe. Just the hard aluminium pipe is going to remain the same. Now I'm really hoping that this does fix our issue, because yeah, it's one of those annoying things, you know, when you can't find out where the leak is, but you can kind of see the general area where it's leaking from. And yeah, I really just want to get it sorted today, to be honest. So like I said, then we have a replacement pipe. I went with a Vaco one, and we have the replacement gasket where it meets the engine block. This is an L-ring gasket, you can't go wrong with them. And then we also have an O-ring here as well. This is just a generic brand. I think I couldn't find an L-ring replacement O-ring. But yeah, should do the job. You know, it's an O-ring at the end of the day, so should do the job quite nicely. Right then, let's get outside and let's get cracking. Okay then, so we have the 130i up in the air, and the first thing I'm going to do is show you where this pipe that we're going to be replacing is actually located on the engine. So we take a look underneath then. We can see we definitely have some coolant along the anti-roll bar, and you can just about see it dripping as well. So if we take a look on the bottom of the water pump here, you can see that's definitely coolant. It's been dripping for, like I said, a month or two now. Now it's going to be pretty hard to see, but take a look up here. This aluminium pipe, that is the one that we're going to be replacing. So obviously access is not great, so we are going to have to remove a few things to get to it. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the anti-roll bar, get that out of the way. Then I'm probably going to have to remove this U-shaped pipe as well, and then I think I should be able to access it. I think obviously it's going to be really tight with the power steering rack in the way, and obviously the subframe as well, but I'm sure we'll do it. Oh yeah, and if you're thinking what is the access like from above, hopefully this answers that. You can literally not even see the pipe. So I think if you wanted to get it from above, you'd have to, you know, remove the coolant reservoir and probably the exhaust as well, and even then you'd struggle because it's a really tight space. So underneath is probably the best option for us. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do then is remove the anti-roll bar. The anti-roll bar bushes are held in by 4 13mm nuts, and then where it attaches to the drop links, they are a 16mm nut with 17mm flats on the rear just to keep the ball joint in place. I'm going to detach it from the drop links first, and then we can just remove these nuts and it should lower down then. That's one side out. That's this side. That's this side. That's the nut from this sway bar link removed. And that's the nut from this side removed as well.
Oh. Hold hands now. Hold hands or we'll go back in.
And that's it. And that's a nut from the, and that's a nut from this side removed as well. This is where the whole thing just drops on my head. There we go. That's the anti-roll bar removed. Next thing to do then is remove this U-bend coolant pipe. It's held in by 2 Jubilee clamps. Either take a flat bladed screwdriver or a 6mm socket. I just find it much easier just to use the socket. And yeah, I'm gonna guess that we're gonna have quite a bit of coolant come out when we remove this hose. So have got a bucket ready to try and catch this, but it's just going to be a case of wiggling it out with limited room and trying not to get covered in coolant. So this is going to be fun. So we got the hose loose off of the water pump. That drained a whole load of coolant in the bucket. Just need to get the hose removed now. There's the hose removed then. Yeah, I know what some of you are thinking. How do you know that this hose isn't leaking? Well, every time I've inspected around this when it's been on the car, there's been no water seeping from either of the ends, and as you can see, the pipe itself is dry. You know, you would know if there was coolant leaking from it. Yeah, I think this hose is good, to be honest. I think everything leads to this pipe here, which we should now be able to access. This is the pipe that we want to get removed then. It has 3 points of contact. It connects with this hose up here, held in by this small Jubilee clamp, and then it connects to the water pump with this Jubilee clamp. This is the Jubilee clamp that I actually replaced like a month or 2 ago. I thought it might, you know, help us with the leak. It didn't do that, let's just say. And then it goes right up there into the abyss where it connects to the engine block. Now those bolts to remove it from the engine block, that's going to be fun because yeah, there's little to no access up there. Okay, so I'm actually in my car now. Just actually had to go out and get some parts, well, tools essentially. So the 2 bolts that hold the that coolant pipe to the engine block itself, I think they're like an E-Torx, like 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know what the Torx size is, but usually you can get them undone with like a 6 or a 7mm regular socket. Now I did try that and it kind of seemed like it wanted to round off, so I thought, you know, screw that, I'm not rounding that bolt because they are so awkward to get to. So I thought I may as well just get some proper E-Torx sockets. I do have some obviously, but they only go down to like E10. I think that's like the smallest size that I have. So I managed to get one of these small socket sets, and this goes down all the way to like an E5 I believe, which is plenty small enough. And I thought it'd be a good idea as well just to pick up some new hose clamps. These are like 99p, so if one breaks or if one is, you know, not working as good as it should, then obviously I have them as a backup. Right, let's get home and let's get back into the car. I managed to get the second bolt removed, but if you take a look outside, it's pitch black. We've been on this all day. Honestly, what, like 9 hours we've been on this to get these 2 bolts removed. And yeah, I honestly think I could have had the engine out quicker. We have the original pipe removed. Oh my god, I'll explain in just a moment how we managed to get there, but I am so pleased to see that on this original pipe it does look like we have some sort of coolant leak on there, because we can see it's stained blue, which is the coolant colour. Now I don't know if that's our current coolant leak, but it's pretty fair to say that this thing needed replacing. Like I said, I don't know if we was leaking from this hose here, from the O-ring, from this gasket. I don't have a clue. But like I said, we're going to be swapping in the new pipe with the new hose on, with the new gasket and with the new O-ring. I never ever ever want to do this job again. Now I'll show you what we've had to do. Okay then, so that second bolt, we actually managed to gain access to it from the engine bay, but we had to move the coolant reservoir. We had to unbolt the exhaust manifold, both from the engine and from the rest of the exhaust, which we have some snap bolts and one I kind of had to cut, but we'll move on to that in a little minute. But yeah, with the exhaust manifold, just leave it away from the engine slightly. I was then able to get a clear line of sight onto that second bolt. I should have done this first. I should have stopped wasting hours and hours of time trying to get at it from the bottom. I kept on trying to gain access to it from down here, but I could not get a clear line of sight on it. You know, it kept catching on the catalytic converter, and I was, you know, just kept rounding off the bolt. I was like, if this gets too badly rounded, then yeah, I'm going to be stuck. So I need to remove that exhaust, move it out of the way. Now I did plan on removing it completely, and as you can see there, it's disconnected from the rest of the exhaust, but I just could not seem to get this thing removed. Like I said, I think it'd actually be quicker just to remove the engine to get this exhaust out of the way. It's so tight, there's like no space up there at all. But yeah, like I said, we do have a snapped bolt. One of them snapped, and then the other one I had to cut just so I could get it free from this other exhaust section, and then we disconnected the O2 sensors and everything. But yeah, so happy that the original pipe is now removed. I think I'm going to call it a day. Okay, so a couple of days later, I think we may be done. Let's go and check for leaks. Be dry under here. Check the exhaust. And with the car back on the ground, that is this job hopefully done. I'm just going to take this thing for a test drive now. Where do I start? Yeah, so we're all done for now, I hope. So I took it for a test drive. Still couldn't see any leaks, you know, with the cooling system or with the exhaust. So that's all good. but honestly this job has turned into an absolute nightmare. Like, I thought this was going to probably be like a 1 to 2 hour job. I thought I was just going to have to remove the under trays, remove the anti-roll bar, disconnect the coolant hoses from the water pump and the thermostat, and then just unbolt that pipe that goes into the back of the engine block. Boy was I wrong. This job has honestly took around 3 full days. Like, I'm not even exaggerating there. Honestly, one of the worst jobs that I've done. Like I said, it would have been quicker literally to remove the engine to do this. A couple of things I wish I knew from the start, that you're not going to be able to get on those bolts for this coolant pipe with the exhaust manifold in its place. You just can't do it. So if you are thinking of doing this job yourself, I just want to say you are crazy. But just know that you have to unbolt the exhaust manifold, and that's actually not a difficult job because the nuts on the exhaust manifold are copper. They are not rusted on. I just wish I could say the same for the bolts lower down at the bottom of the downpipe though. Those things are just completely just like, you know, they're far gone. Like I said, when I went to unbolt the first one, that bolt just snapped, and the second one I ended up having just to cut in half anyway. And I think that the bolts are actually welded in from factory, because after you've, you know, cut the nut off or removed the nut, then you should just be able to hit the bolt through. Yeah, that never happened, and it wasn't possible to do so. So I'm pretty sure the bolts were welded in from factory. So that meant that, you know, the bolts had to be drilled out, which was a pain in itself because the bolts are so tough. So it was a case of literally drilling, using a drill bit, and then that would go blunt, drilling a tiny bit more, like we're talking like half a millimeter, a millimeter at a time, drilling, sharpening the drill bit, drilling a bit more, sharpening the drill bit, drilling a bit more, sharpening the drill bit. And obviously we had to do that for both of the bolt holes, and it was such a long drawn out process. And yeah, it was not comfortable as well, lying under the car when you have water dripping on you, you have water like completely soaking you, you have coolant dripping in your eyes, you have rust falling in your hair, and yeah, it hasn't been a good job at all, to be honest. I'm not going to complain though. A job is now done. I shouldn't in theory have to do this ever again. This is like the hardest coolant pipe to access on this engine. All the other ones are relatively easy. They're all just rubber hoses and generally fairly easy to get to. So yeah, I shouldn't ever have to do this again. If you have to do this yourself, good luck. You're going to need it, and yeah, hopefully try and take a few pointers away from this video. But yeah, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!